Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CoinNewsExtra interview session. It's a program where we invite innovators, stakeholders, and influencers in the blockchain, fintech, and crypto ecosystem to come talk about matters arising, what their contribution towards the ecosystem, and the state of blockchain, fintech, and AI. So today I have with me a great innovator. He's been playing a role in the ecosystem. I have with me Shama Thaha, who is the CSO Accubits Technologies. Shama, you're welcome to CoinNewsExtra.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure to have you. You are welcome. So we'll be looking at how AI and blockchain can augment human ability to innovate. We see what is happening these days in the world, and we are going to be looking how these technologies, emerging techs, is going to be helping out in innovation. So, but before we go straight to that particular topic, I would like to get a brief about yourself and your background.
Thank you, Lee. I'm Shamir Thaha. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Accubits. I also play the role of CEO for the Europe and Middle East African markets. I'm a technologist by nature, but a management professional on a day-to-day work. So primarily, I'm responsible for leading the teams in our organization, spearheading some of the key initiatives around artificial intelligence and blockchain, and some of the cutting-edge work that we're currently doing around the pandemic research as well. As Accubits, as many would already know, we're a global organization mainly focused on emerging tech.
Interesting. That's a very nice background. So let's look at, we are talking about how AI and blockchain can augment human ability to innovate. What are some of the deficiencies, the challenges when it comes to human innovations?
I think, the technologies like artificial intelligence and blockchain are truly meant to actually advance humanity. And that's one of our core vision statements as well. Within Accubits, we have a tagline, which is 7 billion creative minds, essentially leveraging technology to liberate people from doing the same repetitive tasks. The challenges that we see when implementing any automation or any sort of artificial intelligence applications is trying to gather the data that is available to actually create interesting models. AI isn't a solution that would solve anything and everything. It is today a very narrow AI. We are still far away from having what we call as ASI, which is artificial super intelligence, or even AGI. We're seeing very narrow applications, mostly around computer vision or natural language textual processing. So the biggest challenge that we're seeing is building those interesting applications. And the second biggest challenge is obviously building change management. When you work with enterprises, implementing an AI solution has a lot of change, resistance to change. You need to train that model as well in local environments. And also, it's an ethical issue as well. Most people think that AI is there to replace jobs or take away jobs from people. But in fact, what AI can do is to augment what people are already doing or enhance their efficiency. So it's an ethical issue. Most organizations have a human first approach. So figuring out how to actually protect or keep their workforce active and then advancing that.
Okay, interesting. Shama, let's look at it this way, this direction. So, having been able to identify these challenges, how do you think blockchain and AI could help us when it comes to innovation?
So there are many ways, right? I mean, if you look at each of these technologies, they have fundamentally core applications or use cases to say that can actually help humanity. I mean, if you look at healthcare, if you look at fintech innovation, or if you look at agrotech, there are so many different use cases that are already live and running. In fact, if you look at the current pandemic as well, the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the biggest innovations or one of the biggest challenges that we've tried to tackle is how we can actually solve or flatten the curve of the pandemic. So way back in February 2020, when the world was actually hit with COVID-19 and the outbreak, we at Accubits, we built something which was a much needed solution for the hour, which is called Rebuild the Chain, a pandemic management solution, which is a non-pharmaceutical intervention tech, which means it is able to help people or communities tackle the pandemic without having to rely on pharmaceutical intervention. And that was the need of the hour, and even today, because vaccines would take time. It's not completely tested. Even to achieve what we call as herd immunity, you need to have the community, 70% of the community vaccinated. So it's a long time before we can actually achieve that. So where a solution like this, which is blockchain powered and AI powered, is able to actually help communities understand the spread of the virus, not only from human to human, but also from human to surface to human, and also looking beyond just contact trace, understanding exposure analysis or the spread probability within communities or regions. And last but not the least, we're seeing travel becoming imminent today, right? We can't actually close down our borders and have a complete lockdown. So we've actually introduced something which is a digital health passport, or what we call as a travel pass, which is again blockchain based, right? So if we will know if you've been vaccinated, or if you're a primary contact or a secondary contact, or you're free, or if you're free from COVID. So all these data points are actually registered on a ledger that is available to authorities, especially the border control. So you can, travel without having to worry about being exposed. So these are some of the simple innovations, or much needed use cases that we're seeing today. Other than that, we're seeing applications in agriculture, for instance, where we're seeing farmers enhance their productivity or production capacity by at least 5 to 10%, simply by understanding the kind of crop needs, what crops need, which crops need more water or irrigation, by using computer vision. So there are various applications. I think the most important thing that startups, companies, or even governments need to do is to figure out the most important use cases, pick up the ones that have a high impact, and just start with that as a pilot. I think today we're seeing most of the innovations happening around pandemic and the COVID-19.
Thank you, Shama. I was trying to ask you, I wanted to ask you, it's like you have made the mention of it, how Accubit is contributing towards that. So let me get your opinion when it comes to the future of blockchain and AI. Briefly, what do you think the future looks like?
I think the future is quite promising. If you look at AI, for instance, AI is not new. I mean, people think that it's just happened recently. It's more than 20, 25 years old. Although, we've seen different phases of evolution of AI, and we've had, a winter phase for AI, but it's really accelerated now because of the advancements of computing. And we, are at, I think, at a cusp where we are actually seeing a huge acceleration in terms of applications of AI around computer vision, automation. I think with COVID-19, automation is itself accelerated. Blockchain, again, keeping the cryptocurrency aside, there are fundamental applications of AI. I mean, blockchain. We're already seeing applications around supply chain traceability. Vaccine traceability is a massive thing that we're seeing today. We're already implementing cold chain vaccine traceability solution using blockchain. Even if you look at food supply chain, if you look at coffee, for instance, that's a massive use case where we're looking at fair trade, or even salmon or seafood traceability. There are many use cases that fundamentally use blockchain as a core technology or a distributed ledger technology. But again, if you look at the other side, where crypto plays a key role, I mean, we've seen phenomenal adoption happening over the last couple of years, and more recently, the last few months. We've seen a surge in adoption of Bitcoin as well. And it's just an indication that cryptocurrency is here to stay. I think banks have also become aware of the fact, and they're becoming more open to the whole concept of digital assets as a means of actually trade and exchange of value. So I think blockchain is definitely here to stay. The only challenge that I see is in implementing the solutions, especially consortium-based projects, or having an adoption that has real meaningful value. So again, it's like any other fundamental business problem. You have to solve a real problem so that it becomes widely adopted. So it's not just the technology alone; it's the application of the technology that will actually make that more, widely adopted and used by the masses. So I think AI and blockchain, there are various applications. And if you look at AI, blockchain, IoT, there are many applications that even use all of these technologies together. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think overall it's a quite bright future for these technologies.
That's very nice, quite a bright future for the two technologies. I really appreciate it. It has really been an amazing time out with you, Shama Thaha, who is the CSO at Accubits Technologies. Thank you very much for joining us today on CoinNewsExtra interview session.
Thank you, Lee. It was a pleasure being on your show. Thank you for having me.
Okay, it's our pleasure. Thank you.